Over fall break, as part of the CUW field hockey team, I traveled to Virginia to play 3 games. On our off day, we went to Lehman Family Farms in Blue Ridge, Virginia. Not only were we the only college athletes there, but we were also the only people from Wisconsin. The clothes we were wearing was also another difference. It was a warmer day, but to the people from Virginia, it wasn't that warm, so they were wearing more fall clothes. This was unlike any other pumpkin farm I had been to. It was surrounded by mountains, and the farm we were on was on a big hill. There were mostly families at the farm, many with little kids. It was also different for us because many of the people were there to not only have the experience, but to buy things. We were mostly there for the experience. We also pulled up on a big charter bus while most people came by car. Many people stared at us as we got off the bus, curious to see who would get off. Many were surprised to see a group of girls all in athletic clothing. Many people continued to stare at us throughout our time at the farm. They could just tell by looking at us that we weren't from around there and that we were a special group. Most people tried to avoid us, not because we looked intimidating, but because we were the outcasts or the minorities in this situation. I have started to get used to this feeling of being stared at because wherever we go as a team, people look at us differently. This doesn't mean, however, that I feel comfortable with it. It was similar to how I was expecting it to happen, but also different since we had never been to Virginia before. We travel all over the South, but had never been to the as far east as Virginia. Being in the East is different than being in the Midwest. One of the big differences is the mountains and hills. The scenery is much different, making their lifestyle a little bit different. I thought since Virginia was in the South, much similar to our experiences in Tennessee and Arkansas, but I was wrong. It is more like the East and Midwest in terms of how people act. I also thought that since we would be in a crowded place at the farm, people would pay less attention to us, but we still drew attention wherever we went. I felt the least comfortable when we were getting on and off the bus because it was such a difference from everyone else. While they were stepping out of their cars, we stepped off a giant bus. I felt the most comfortable when the team split into groups to do things because we drew less attention since there was less of us in a group. Overall, I felt like people were staring at us the entire time. As a teacher, I will use these experiences, as well as others, to remind me that even though a student might be from the same region as me, there are many differences between states and even cities. I will have to learn about my students and their backgrounds to understand them more. Since I am generally not a minority, it is hard for me to understand experiences that people who are minorities face. This project gave me a small taste of what it is like. While I expected to feel somewhat uncomfortable during my experience, I was not prepared for the level of anxiety I felt during this experience.